You will come back, my friends. Skirt.
You know, I didn't even know how I was going to do this episode, but honestly, let's do one of two things for the pitch. Hi everybody, welcome back to what I love to do each and every month, but this time I'm doing two. Why? If you know, you know. So, let's go back to what started this series in the first place by talking about the Batman universe that's from the Patterson Batman. Last time we did this for the universe, we were talking about what could be a show for Harvey Dent. Now, let's discuss making a show for Deacon Blackfire. Deacon Blackfire is one of the more obscure villains that hasn't had mainstream appeal outside of the Arkham trilogy. We can find him in Arkham Knight, getting a bunch of people that are homeless and destitute and very, very broken to join his church, where he manipulates, breaks, and tries to rip apart the souls of others to become his own mindless servants. He's most notable for being one of the few villains that broke the bat, but not using physical force. He used his own mental fortitude to break his soul and his mind, to make the Batman his own puppet for a time. Almost succeeded, too. The whole thing, though, is if you do certain things wrong in the prompts, you get an instant game over, from what I remember, and yeah, he's just very, very tricky as a villain. But that's just me only knowing from secondhand information, as well as only hearing stuff from playing the video game. So, honestly, it's kind of weird that we don't have a lot with Deacon Blackfire, because he's kind of an interesting villain when you really think about it. Like, we get the Bane, the man who broke the bat physically by just using a knee to break Bruce's spine. We get the Joker because DC can't let go of the Joker. We get the Penguin because we got the Penguin TV show. Again, the inspiration for the series. And we also get Two-Face, we get Catwoman. We get so many of his rogues gallery, but not about his obscure villains, like Victor Zsasz, Calendar Man, and Deacon Blackfire. So, how do we introduce Deacon Blackfire for this to be a series? What if, and follow me on this, what if Season 1 is a build-up to how he was broken from the events from the Batman film that led him into certain things that would introduce other mainstream villains that don't take the spotlight? They're the cameos for him to just be the bigger villain. He's the one that's also instituting a lot of things that could lead into other characters getting the spotlight later. Maybe he's instrumental in the Scarecrow becoming a villain later on. Maybe he's responsible for stuff from the Penguin's own fuckery from trying to be the kingpin of crime for the lowest streets of Gotham. Maybe he's in with the Black Mask. There are so many different opportunities on the base level, but let's go deeper. What can we do with Deacon Blackfire? I'm doing this while heavily sick because I'm highly congested. Woo! So, how about this for a real pitch? We just did the baseline stuff for mainstream. Let's go real. So, let's still follow the basis about how maybe the flood led to certain things. Maybe there's a near-death experience. Maybe he's one of these people that miraculously survived for unexplained reasons. Maybe from a Lazarus pit that's in Gotham to this day. Who's to say? Maybe it warped his mind, maybe not. Different angles for multiple choice things about what is Deacon Blackfire in this continuity, in this Elseworlds universe. Maybe he's an enigma. Maybe he's a ghost. Maybe he's a specter. Maybe he's a real person. Whatever have you, each and every episode is more like an anthology sort of thing. Doing it kind of like Midnight Diner from Japan, with the eponymous character being just a focal device that leads into other stories that lead back into the main crux of what makes the series the series. We do that with the show being titled Blackfire Alley, Blackfire Alley works because, of course, he mostly delves in using the homeless as his instruments for destruction as well as for worship. So, making it so Blackfire is this bigger than thou creature of all sorts of repute and renown does lead into you can make a supernatural element for someone like this, or do stuff that's more grounded, like what we did with Penguin, or like what we tried to do with Harvey Dent's lead up into being Two-Face. We have all these facets that in an Elseworld story are fantastic. And in doing so, as I now need to clear my nose. Oh, God. Ooh, so congested. And now that we have all this stuff laying out flat, Deacon Blackfire can be this boogeyman effect. We make it so, even if he's not mentioned in the movies, it's a presence that's felt throughout the entire IP that is secreted within the streets of Gotham. You see just small people from his congregation as small blink if you miss it people in the background. Maybe they're whispers in people's ears when Bruce is surveilling. Maybe they pop up in other shows. Maybe it's stuff that goes into other realms, like if Catwoman had her own TV show. That's a subject for a later episode. All these different things going back and forth with the IPs to where you are instrumental in creating a character that is an introduction level into the lower villains that can be greater and grander because of what their sinister edge can do that you don't often see because of how they're overshadowed by the bigger names taking the spotlight. I am so congested. As such, we now have this for a show, we now have this for a brand, and we're literally littering the streets to do more things. Maybe it leads to Calendar Man, maybe Baby Doll finally gets an appearance. Again, another episode for the pitch later down the line. We have so many different things to build up on this brand here and now that just having Deacon Blackfire be the small, intricate measure for things for an introduction to the softer streets of the underbelly, that's honestly interesting for the Rogues Gallery, and you can do a lot with it. So why not do that, you know? And I know I'm doing this while sick. That is a faux pas for most video essayists, but honestly, I'd rather do this for my heavily unedited shows than for my edited stuff because I don't want to be sick for all the things that I had to postpone because of how ill I've been getting. Oh, God. But there's a second one that's coming up soon that's thanks to a buddy of mine named Kara that I'm actually going to be getting for that episode. So, yeah.